Now, something about this Holly Holm situation does not sit right. A controversial decision, questions about judges, questions about the referee, and a strange locker room meeting in the first fight where a former boxing world champion was specifically warned about elbows. Coincidence? Maybe. But after Holly spoke about the fight and the controversy reached the Ariel Helwani show, the questions only became louder. So I wanted to discuss the Holly Holm and Stephanie Hahn rematch because the controversy does not seem to be going away. In fact, after hearing Holly speak about the fight, you could argue the questions are getting bigger, not smaller, they're getting bigger. Did the judges, did they get it wrong? Was this a hometown decision? And did Holly receive fair treatment throughout the entire event? And I think these are legitimate questions. So one of the most interesting things came from Holly Holm's reaction, her actual reaction after the loss. Now, Holly Holmes is not someone who usually makes excuses. She is a former boxing world champion, which means she is experienced. She has seen good decisions and she has seen bad decisions. Yet listening to her comments, there seemed to be a genuine confusion regarding to how the fight was scored and how the fight was officiated. So as we know, and as the records will show that the judges awarded Stephanie Hahn a decision victory. However, was that an accurate reflection of what actually happened inside the ring? That is the question, because whenever a fight is close, takes place, people immediately ask whether the right fighter, did the right fighter get the result? And when a veteran like Holly questions the outcome, people start paying attention. Now, of course, there was the referee issues, and referees can really make an impact on a fight. But things become really fascinating because allegedly, before the first fight, during the referee locker room meeting, Holly reported that she was told that she cannot use her elbows. Now think about that. Think about that for a second. Why would you specifically tell Holly Holmes that? Why would you tell a former boxing world champion not to use her elbows? Is this miscommunication? Is this misunderstanding? Or is this like a ploy to make someone very uncomfortable? And of course, when we play devil's advocate, maybe it's total ignorance, but is that acceptable? And what makes the situation strange is when you think about it, Holly has spent most of her combat sports career, operating under rules where she clearly understands what is legal and what is illegal. She is one of the most experienced fighters in combat sports. So why? Why was that warning necessary? Was it simply routine? Or was there something sinister behind it? Was it miscommunication? Or was it purely ignorance? Of course, some people will say that this means absolutely nothing, that there's nothing in this, and maybe there isn't. They will argue that referees often remind fighters about rules before contests. That premise is true, and that is a fair point. But others will ask a different question, a probing question. Why was the point about elbows mentioned specifically? Why mention elbows? And to my understanding, Holly Holmes does not have any history within the boxing ring of using elbows. Why not just simply give the standard instructions and simply move forward? And then we get into the hometown decision argument. Boxing and combat sports fans have seen this story unfold time and time again. A fight takes place in one fighter's territory, and then we have a close decision. Immediately, people begin to ask whether the local fighter received favorable treatment. Is that what happened here? Or are people simply looking for controversy where none exists because simply it was a close, competitive fight? And I think the following premise is true. The reality is that hometown decisions have existed throughout combat sports history. That does not mean that every scorecard is corruption, but it does mean fans are conditioned to be suspicious. When scorecards appear wider than expected, people start asking questions. And once those questions begin, they rarely disappear without debate. I also think Holly's reaction matters. I think her reaction matters because she did not appear angry, she appeared puzzled. And there's a difference between being angry and being puzzled. And angry fighters, they sometimes lash out emotionally, but confused fighters often believe they genuinely won. And I think that distinction is important. If Holly Holmes truly believed she was controlling key moments, then naturally the scoring becomes a talking point. Naturally, these issues were discussed on the Ariel Helwani show. That gave the story even more attention because of the detail. And Ariel is one of the bigger voices. He's one of the bigger voices in combat sports media. And once a controversy reaches that particular level, it moves beyond fan forums and social media. It becomes a part of the wider conversation surrounding the fight. So where does this leave us? Did the judges get it wrong? Was the referee's treatment of Holly unusual? Was it a hometown decision? Or is this simply another close fight that people will argue for years to come? Regardless of the answer, one thing is for certain. The Holly Holmes controversy is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. So here is a counter-narrative. I'm going to break this counter-narrative up into phases. So phase one, I thought Holly won the fight, but judging is subjective. It's very subjective. So perhaps it was just bad judging. Phase two, the referee had a bad performance and therefore is not a bad referee but made bad decisions on the night. Phase three, the locker room incident that happened in the first fight, maybe that was prompted by the opponent's team. Think of this. Boxing is Machiavellian, so planting a seed for an advantage that is very, very normal in the brutal world of boxing, in the brutal world of combat. Phase four, the home crowd, they influenced the judges, and that's very normal. It's a very human thing that can happen. And finally, phase five, the judges, for whatever reason, were unable to distinguish that Holly Holmes was dominating the counter-punching windows, because the counter-punching in this fight was essential in determining who was winning the fight. Now, obviously, the other counter-argument is that there was corruption. I personally don't like to make allegations, or I don't like to make strong allegations unless there is some evidence. But here is a question. Whether it's corruption or incompetence, surely it's still unacceptable. You know, this made me think, and it made me think that in life there is always room for improvement. Because for a business, or specifically a boxing promotion, to improve, they should consider doing the following. So when you do something like a boxing event, ask yourself, what went well? And acknowledge that and embrace that. But also ask yourself, what went wrong? And then ask yourself, how can you improve? And when you recognize the problems and you identify the solutions, then you seek to implement the solutions in the next event. It's important to recognize that we can't change the past, but we can influence the future. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, simply like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.